on this scale, to actually make this work, when Mr. Thompson and the Dr. Shetty group came forward, it was a recognition that we were going to have to make some significant changes. So from a legislative standpoint, it was looking at what would make it work in the Cayman Islands. As was mentioned earlier on, Gene made a mention of tort reform. Now, obviously, tort reform, when we looked at that, we had discussions. When you first come to the government and you say that you need to reduce or to put a cap on tort reform, and just so we're clear, I mean, this was 2 years ago, 2 years ago, and they were coming and saying to us, you need to limit that because, and it's important, Donna, when we talk about insurance for the government's consideration, we had a situation where there was uncertainty. We were hearing about claims in the United States, for example, where the claims wasn't for medical negligence, let's say, but we were getting claims for, and the famous one that we've all heard about is the coffee, the McDonald's coffee, where someone spills coffee and you get a claim saying that for pain and suffering, which is pretty much impossible to measure, you're going to get a fine or a charge of millions of dollars. And so when you're a healthcare facility and you're left to that level of uncertainty, not knowing what it's going to, what the potential exposure is going to be, it makes it hard to make plans, financial plans in that environment. So we looked at it, and I use that as one example, right, of the presentation that was made to government. It said, government, we understand if we do something wrong, if we're negligent, we want to be held liable. We want to know that we're going to have to pay. If we have to pay for that had been requested, other doctors, OBGYNs, were actually having a significant struggle again because of significant malpractice claims and malpractice insurance. You will remember there was a point in time where there was a concern that most of them weren't going to be able to get insurance, and that what was going to happen to that practice in Cayman. And so the government, the Minister of Health, the Honourable Mark Scotland, took on that challenge and said, let's sit down, let's talk about what legislation is necessary. And so there was a significant amount of legislative changes, some of those still being done. Some of those works in progress, but some of those actually have already passed. We've gone through the Legislative Assembly. There was debate. The members have recognized. We've had input from the medical the various regulatory boards and practitioners who would have looked at that and said, yes, government, this is necessary. In some cases, they would have said, no, we don't think that this is necessary. And so we've had to create that environment by making changes to the legislative framework to create that environment that we talk about that makes it attractive, but attractive from a business perspective, but also still attractive from a customer perspective as well. Right. You're not able to go there. People aren't going to come to get medical care in the Cayman Islands if there's no protection at all. If it's a free-for-all, if anyone can be registered and there's no regulations to ensure that the person that is actually operating is going to be operating at the highest standard possible. While we talk about the cost of healthcare being important, again, when we're looking at some place to go, we all want to be able to check the credentials of who that doctor is. With the social media, with the internet now, it allows you to be able to pretty much Google any doctor. You can look at their history, you can look at experience, you can look at their lawsuits, you can look at their practice to get yourself comfortable that you're coming to a location that, and the person that is going to be providing that care is a reputable provider of that particular service. And so we've worked specifically, like I said, the Minister for Health has worked with Dr. Shetty and his team, and like I said, the different regulatory boards in Cayman to ensure that we were able to attract the level of care, attract the level of investment, but also continue to maintain a level of service that we're satisfied that will be able to provide us the high level of care and service that is necessary.
Okay. Mr. Thompson, I'm going to, you may yell at me for this one, but I know you as to be a very humble person. I'm not one to really jump out and for public for people to talk about the things that you've done in the community. And as such, you come from a line of business-savvy men, Mr. Norberg Thompson being your father, and Kel Thompson being your brother. And I'd like for you to tell our listeners a little bit out there, a little bit about what drove you and your interest in this particular project, because I don't see you as someone who would lightly jump into such a commitment and aligning yourself with someone or with any project that is not on the up and up when it comes to standards. You care to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think, Donna, if 5 years ago, if somebody had said I was going to be involved with something like this, I would have said they're crazy. If they'd have said I was going to be in a boating business, it would have been more true. But, I believe God has a plan for everything. Mm-hmm. And there was a reason. These things all happened and things lined up, with Harry's relationship with Dr. Shetty, with the current environment and the economic, the world went into an economic tailspin. Mm-hmm. There was tremendous uncertainty. Just to give you a bit of background, when we spoke to Dr. Shetty about coming to Cayman, when we first called him, mm-hmm. he was actually negotiating to put a 200 to 300 bed facility in Mexico.
Okay, right.
But because of the crime and kidnapping, they were having some challenges with that. We were able to convince him to come here and look at Cayman. And I guess, I once I got involved, I got excited about it. Okay. And, there's no secret that I'm into, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm mm-hmm. into it for economic benefits. But when you look at the reality of what Dr. Shetty does, it mm-hmm. far outweighs that. The economic benefits become the byproduct. Right. And the saving of lives and the helping of mankind mm-hmm. becomes a real driver. And, Dr. Shetty through time has impressed that on to us that, the economics will come. Do good, serve mankind, and mm-hmm. the economics will come. I guess what I was a bit overtaken by was the scale of this, right? The enormity of it, and the level of commitment it would take. Mm-hmm. But it is an exciting project. It is. I was actually at lunch with someone today, and I told them that it's probably the most exciting time in my life from a business perspective in what I'm doing because of all of the opportunities. And in addition to that, the opportunities that it gives to Cayman. Cayman will benefit. There's so many other countries in the Caribbean vying for it, mm-hmm. and our island will get it first. Mm-hmm. That is a huge satisfaction to me. As far as the credibility, quite frankly, Donna, mm-hmm. when Dr. Shetty came into my office, went on his first visit, which was I think it was in September of 2000, and CG, correct me, I think it's 2009. Okay. When he came into my office and started telling me about the things he was doing, I thought he was a crazy man. And it just so happened that my computer screen was sideways, so I was able to Google him. Okay. And start validating what he was saying. Okay. After visits to India, and of course, learning about working with him on a day-to-day basis, I realized that he's a visionary. Mm-hmm. He's truly a visionary in the healthcare industry in the world. Many people, not only in the eastern part of the world, but even more so in the western part of the world, are following this model. He has associations and affiliations with Duke University, with Harvard, with University of Minnesota, with Stanford, with Maastricht University. I mean, and on and on and on it goes, that are doing research projects on him, have affiliations with him. Mm-hmm. Those are all credibility builders that mm-hmm. don't just come by being a nobody. Right. It comes by being a real person. Mm-hmm. So I think that, it's a phenomenal opportunity for me personally, but even more than that, it's a phenomenal opportunity for me, for my country. Right. It's an opportunity to make sure that Cayman has something long-term, a new pillar, as Mr. Glidden refers to the economy, and Mr. Scott, and will last for a long time. It will create opportunities for many generations of people. Mm-hmm. And CG referred to something, Mr. Glidden referred to something that's very important, and that is that we're a service-based economy. Medical tourism, if you think it through, it's an awesome opportunity, because you are creating you're taking somebody that's in a bad position, you're making them better, and they're paying you for it and leaving. So basically all you're doing is trading human intellect for an appreciation payment. It's a real awesome, if you think of it from that perspective, and it's a real awesome opportunity. So I'm excited. It's a daunting task, and but at the end of the day, like I said, if it's good for Cayman, my job will be done.
All right. Speaking of opportunities, though, you want to talk a little bit more about some of the spin-off opportunities that are going to be available there for your Caymanian people?
Donna, in the development circles, they say if you build a port, an airport, or a hospital, you build a new town. And that's very true. I've had the opportunity, because of this venture, to visit numerous healthcare facilities, primarily in the U.S. And in every case, when it's a major center, 200 or 300 beds, you see a tremendous amount of economic activity within proximity.
Right.
But some of the things are, increased real estate sales, as Mr. Scott referred to, increased return of visitors as tourists. It is said in the medical tourism field, or studies indicate that a half of all medical tourists, or approximately half of all medical tourists, will return as a leisure tourist within 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
It's a good number.
Right.
It provides us excellent medical care, obviously, for Caymanians. It provides us, increase, again, land values. Other support businesses will have to be created, and they're numerous. Think about it, whether it's food service, restaurant service, whether it's laundry service, whether it's medical facilities for other medical practitioners that may come to the island. The opportunities are endless.
Right.
And again, my travel has shown that this is a fact. If you look at Lee Memorial in Florida, or Mayo in Jacksonville, or even just as close as Miami. If you look at what's happening in South Miami, down on Kendall, where Jackson is building a new facility, a whole area is springing up just to support that. And it's so we think that the opportunities are vast, and as you say, we encourage Caymanians to do two things: take advantage of the opportunity and look for them. In addition to that, we beg for Caymanians to consider healthcare as an opportunity for a career, especially for the young children coming up. It is an amazing career. It's in your own backyard. We will have an education system. Take advantage of it. It's a phenomenal career, and it's a very broad career. You don't have to just be a doctor. In fact, a small percentage will be a percentage of your employees will be doctors. It will be a large percentage of, whether it's technicians, whether it's nurses, administrative, maintenance, and whatever. So there are vast opportunities.
Right. All right. We're going to take a break, gentlemen. We're going to be back on Talk with the Nation in just a few minutes. Again, we're down to the last 20 minutes of the show, but if you have a comment or a question for us, do give us a call at 946-9898. We're talking medical tourism. We'll be right back with Talk with the Nation.
Single-family homes
at TWTN at vibefm.ky.
All right, we're back with Talk with the Nation here on Vibe 98.9. We're talking medical tourism. We have approximately 17 to 18 minutes left in the show. I have three guests with me in the studio this evening. We have the local partner for Health City Cayman Islands, Mr. Gene Thompson, Director of Tourism, Mr. Shomari Scott, and MLA and Counselor for Tourism, Mr. Cline Glidden, talking about this all-important subject that's happening here now in the Cayman Islands. Mr. Thompson, if you'd like to throw out some numbers there for us to give our listeners a better idea of what we're talking about as far as the benefits and so of the Health City Cayman Islands over the long term? Or Mr. Glidden?
Yeah, Donna, just before Mr. Thompson goes into that, when we were mentioning a bit earlier as to what was necessary, we talked about legislative changes that had to be done. But it was also important for the government to recognize that, again, while the individuals have done this. There's an element of risk. There's an economic downturn, and this, as in any business proposition, there needs to be some level of certainty. So the government obviously has gotten significant criticisms, actually on both aspects, creating, when we talk about legislative environment, and it's important for us to note, Donna, that when we talk about some of the legislative changes, they weren't done specifically for Dr. Shetty, right? So it was recognized, and it has helped and encouraged other entities as well, as far as medical tourism. And so we've seen the environment benefiting across the board. Obviously, Dr. Shetty and that institution of that scale will benefit, but other entities, we've seen them start, and we've seen the benefits associated with those already. It's also important to note when we talked about concessions, because that's the other area of criticism. So we got criticized for first of all, having Dr. Shetty. I can remember specifically getting criticized when me and the minister went to India. Supposedly we were spending government money on a jaunt. But anyway, I mean, all's well that ends well, I guess.
Right.
The proof is in the pudding, they said, and now we're seeing the benefits of that vision. But when we talk about concessions, there's a lot of criticism concerning the amount of concessions that were given to it to attract this facility. But again, what we've seen is that government has given concessions on things that we did not have before. So we've said, listen, Dr. Shetty, if you come along and spend $2 billion in our economy by creating a facility that's 2,000 beds, well, then you can get whatever the concession is. I don't have the number in front of me. But you only get that if you spend the $2 billion, right? And if you only spend that $2 billion because you're providing a level of care and service, we're providing all the benefits of, he's not going to go and spend the $2 billion just to get the concessions. It has to be that we're having the demand for that to occur. And so, interestingly, I think that in large part, the majority of those critics that were concerned about the negotiations and what had been negotiated by the government, I think they now recognize the benefit. And I'm hopeful that as Mr. Thompson goes into the numbers that are expected from the actual development of the facility, again, maybe those few that were not convinced will now get a much clearer understanding as to why the government still feels that it was in the Cayman Islands' best interest to create the partnership and to create the environment that would encourage this project to take place.
Well, certainly that's why we wanted to have you guys, you gentlemen here with us on Talk with the Nation, is to give our listeners and the Caymanian people, as well as our expat population, clear ideas and clear facts on exactly what Health City Cayman Islands is all about. Mr. Thompson, can you speak to the numbers for us?
Donna, it's interesting and life is ironic. As we were getting ready to sign what is referred to as the MOU, we call it as our agreement, which was signed on the 7th of April, 2010. 2010, I think it was, Mr. Glidden. 7th of April, 2010. We received a letter on the 28th of March, which we've shared with the government, from the government of another sister island, which offered us a far greater amount of concessions and that was actually from the premier of that country. Far greater level of concessions that we received. In addition to that, they agreed to give us 200 acres of property and build the first 200 beds for us.
Wow.
However, we stuck with our plan, and what I'd like to do is to throw out some numbers that may give the audience and yourselves a bit of idea of the impact that is coming. As Mr. Glidden said, that it's a $2 billion project. It's 2,000 beds. We've secured 200 acres of property in the High Rock area. The estimated spend is over about 15 to 17 years. That $2 billion will include hospital accommodations, university, and assisted living. That is and that will be built in multiple phases. Our first phase is at 140 beds. We expect our next phase to be about 350 beds.
Okay.
In addition to that, we expect that the number of patients coming per day when we're within 1 year of us being fully operational, will be about 70 per day, 60 to 70 per day. That is plus the accompaniment. We expect that to increase up, not on a straight line, but as we add beds, up to, when we're 15 years built out, to about 1,400 patients coming per day. If you take, and that is based on I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is based on a 300-day year.
Okay.
Or 290-day year, something of that nature. If you take that plus the accompaniment and you extrapolate those numbers, that gives us nearly 1 million stay-over tourists per year. 930,000, I think, if the numbers are correct. In addition to that, those tourists spend, our medical tourism tourists spend about 9.5 days. Vast opportunities.
Right.
You can just think through in your own mind what it requires as far as hotel accommodations and services. I'll throw out a few of those numbers. If we progress the way that we estimate that we will, the island will need, some, I think, Mr. Scott, I stand to be corrected, but we have, I think, right now about 3,800 beds, somewhere in that region.
About 4,000.
About 4,000.
That's hotel and condominiums. And
correct.
Okay.
And it is estimated to support this project, over the duration, we will need about 10,000 beds.
Wow.
So we'll more than double the hotel stock. Again, that's over a long period of time, so there's time to build this out. And I'd like to interject here. One of the things that Minister Scotland and Mr. Glidden was successful in doing is making sure that they negotiated this project, that it happened over a protracted period of time.
Okay.
Dr. Shetty's model generally does a project of this nature in about 6 years.
Okay.
That's what he's normally used to. But this one, because of the impacts and so on, we've actually put it out over a much longer period of time.
Sure.
In addition to that, we estimate that we will employ, starting off, we will employ about, in our first phase, about 300 people, of which we are hoping to hire about 100 Caymanians, between 80 and 100. That itself is a challenge because it's a very small pool of healthcare professionals to pull from. The total amount of healthcare industry workers in Cayman are just around 1,200, and we have to be mindful that we don't strip out the health services authority and Dr. Tomlins and so on. So, when the hospital is fully completed and functioning, we estimate that we will employ just short of 10,000 people.
Oh my goodness.
Of which we estimate that we will employ some 2,500 to 2,800 Caymanians directly in this industry. Those are the numbers that are numbers that the study was done by Grant Thornton.
Okay.
In addition to that, I'll throw out just a couple of other quick numbers for you. The amount of spending estimated to be earned through transportation will start at, we estimate will start at about 12 million on an annual basis, and that will go up to about 400 million over the duration. That includes bus transportation, rent-a-cars, taxis, tours, all of those types of things. The amount earned through recreation and shopping, we estimate will start at about 28 million in the first full year of operation, and run up to about 800 million when we're fully built out. The current resort or tourism retail spend on the island right now, as best as we can estimate, is around between 600 and 700 million currently. That includes stores in town and stores that cater to the hotel guest, etc.
Right.
And then, of course, other miscellaneous. Again, it'll start off at about 12 or 14 million and run up to about 400 million. So the total spend on the economy, our Grant Thornton partners have shown us that the additional increase in GDP in Cayman will be about over $3 billion.
Wow.
Our current GDP right now is about 2.5 or 2.6 billion. So, obviously this is a big project.
It is. Yeah.
The thing that is also, again, very, very heartening about this, it is a intellect-based project. Mm-hmm. So you're providing a service. You're not extracting natural resources. You're not manufacturing. Basically, you're providing a service, mm-hmm. and that's one of the lightest industries in the world as far as on the environment and on infrastructure and so on. Mm-hmm. So these are some of the numbers, and again, we encourage Caymanians to take advantage of this as we mm-hmm. start. As we move along, take advantage of it. It's ours for the taking, and again, we encourage Caymanian young people to get involved at an early stage and consider medical tourism as a real opportunity for a career.
Okay. We have about 5 to 6 minutes left. We're going to take a very, very short break and be right back with Talk with the Nation. Join us again in just a few minutes.
All things Cayman, present and future. This is Talk with the Nation with Donna Bush.
Here on Vibe 90. Back to Talk with the Nation here on Vibe 98.9. We're in our last few minutes here of the show. I'm going to ask my guests to just quickly give us a round-robin wrap-up of their thoughts on Health City, Cayman Islands, and medical tourism here in the Cayman Islands. On a whole, our Director of Tourism, Mr. Shomari Scott, you go first.
Okay, great. I get to go first, so no pressure on me. The pressure is always on the last person. No, it's just going to be great for the economy, great from a tourism perspective, another leg that's going to help us with continuous growth, which mm-hmm. is good, the economic impacts behind it, all of the opportunities behind it. For the longest time, we've been always we want to be known as being an innovative country, and we that's another show to talk about all the innovation that's happened here over the years. Mm-hmm. And this is just another aspect where we really be the first in the Caribbean to take a foothold in this regards and carry our country forward into the new century. And we always talk about where our children are actually going to benefit, and this is going to be an area that's definitely going to help to benefit our children as well. The one comment that stuck with me during Dr. Shetty's opening of the actual health city was the fact that he was talking about per capita. India has one of the highest ratios in regards to doctors mm-hmm. per capita. Now that we have this type of facility, previously we didn't have per capita a lot of persons in the financial mm-hmm. industry. We started financial industry, and now we have one of the highest levels of lawyers and the persons from a financial perspective mm-hmm. per capita in the world. Just imagine now, in years to come, we potentially will have some of the highest per capita in regards to actual doctors. And when you're talking about actual wealth, Dr. Shetty was saying that in his country now, this is the one avenue that in one lifetime you can go from being very poor mm-hmm. to being very, very wealthy. Right. So we can, have this opportunity for all the persons in the Cayman Islands and our children now to have the opportunity in one lifetime to go from being either middle class or lower middle class mm-hmm. towards being very wealthy. And that's exciting outside of tourism. That's right. exciting to me as a Caymanian.
All right, Mr. Gene Thompson, local partner for Health City and project manager, project director.
Yeah, again, in winding up, I'd just like to say that we encourage people to get involved in the opportunities, get involved in the education for the young people. Just a quick update, our schedule is we broke ground on the 27th of August. Mm-hmm. We expect to be fully under construction in the next couple of weeks. Materials are ordered, materials are on the way. The site is being prepared as we speak. And we expect it'll be a progressive or continual building program at Health City for the next 10 to 15 years. And there'll be opportunities for a lot of people. And thank you very much for having me today.
All right, our Councillor for Tourism and West Bay MLA, Mr. Cline Glidden, final words?
Well, Donna, just in my wrap-up, I want to thank you for having us, and also thank Gene and Shomari for coming and sharing their knowledge and expertise on this very exciting project. Mm-hmm. Just again, with my relationship with Shomari and the role of tourism, I think it's important. I think Gene started out by saying when Dr. Shetty looked at locations, he needed a location that had a good tourism product to begin with.
Right.
I think that's a testament to the hardworking people, Shomari here now, but even those going on before him. Pilar, we had Miss Angela Martin, we had the other directors of tourism that has created an atmosphere where people are willing to come and recognize Cayman Islands tourism. On the other radio show I was on, we were complimenting Shomari on his promotion, I guess, a recognition finally to director, because for a long time we were calling him the deputy director and acting director and everything else he had except the role of or the title of director, even though he was doing the work. And I think that when we have international partners that are basically being, sought around the world, offers are being given, but we'll come and look and say, listen, because of what Cayman offers from a tourism perspective, it has to give us a sense of pride when we have our own there creating that environment, that industry, and saying that it's the type that international business partners are willing to come and do business in.
Right.
And so we, as a country, we need to continue being friendly. We need to continue welcoming our guests. We need to do our part to make it safe. And, the business of tourism is a very important one, and it's one that we all have to take a part in. I'm happy for my involvement, and I'm happy for the relationship and hard work and dedication of people like Shomari and his team at the Department of Tourism. From a government standpoint, we appreciate all of the hard-working civil servants. Giving apologies for my colleagues, the Minister of Health, who obviously has played an incredible role in seeing this to fruition. He didn't come on today, but I'm sure he'll be back at another stage to speak more from that standpoint, as well as the Honorable Premier, who's off island, but who has been pushing and chomping at the bit to ensure that this project has moved along. I know at times it hasn't moved as fast as he would have liked it to have moved, but he's continued to be that steadying force, ensuring that the elected arm of government as well as the administrative arm of government has continued to play their role in making sure that whatever was necessary from our standpoint has been done. So I'm excited. I'm excited to have been a part of this project from the very early stages, and I look forward to the continuation and of seeing Cayman benefit from all of the opportunities that this type of project can afford us.
All right, Mr. Glidden, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Scott, thank you all for being here with us. To our listeners out there on Talk with the Nation, here on Vibe 98.9, join us again next week when we'll have another important topic to talk about with you. Again, give us a call next week, 946-9898. If you happen to miss this show, you can go to youtube.com/Talk with the Nation. We will have this online for you to listen into. All right, DJ Vaughn is next with all the latest hits here on Vibe 98.9.